So you said becoming a product manager happened more by chance than by choice. How did that accident happen?
In terms of my professional career, I started as a software developer in Manchester.
Meet Raj Sakh, a product innovator, AI strategist, and tech founder with a track record that speaks for itself. He has scaled Gen AI solutions across UK GovTech to millions of citizens and today leads a 30-plus team of elite engineers supporting Scotland's most ambitious scale-ups. This is a conversation about innovation, IP, and building technology that truly scales.
So looking back at MyZupo, what was the hardest lesson that made you the operator that you had to?
It's hard to pick one hard lesson out of many. I think for us, go-to-market, initially, the team were building product with expectations that with zero marketing, we will have real sales.
So what's like the go-to-marketing strategy you can give to somebody who wants to build a product and they are considering doing a crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter?
The real go-to-market strategy is built around going deep into the customer's lens, their perspective, deeply understanding their pain point.
Today we are sitting with one of Scotland's most interesting builders, Raj Sakh, a founder who built hardware, AI apps, got on Dragon's Den, licensed tech to big tech, led public sector AI used by millions, and now helps scale-ups deploy real AI, not hype. If a founder is building anything with AI, this might be the most important conversation you watch this year. Raj Sakh.
Love the licensed tech with big tech.
You've built products that have been seen on Dragon's Den.
Yes.
And you've also licensed IP to big tech. And you've led AI for millions of citizens user. What's the real story before all of this? We want to try and understand early failures or moments that shaped everything you are doing right now.
Yeah, well, great question. I don't know how far back can I go, but I would say when I was about 6, I went to a boarding school. And I think that did shape a big part of my story journey going forward, let's say. So this is in Darjeeling. Do you know Darjeeling?
No.
Okay, so it's this mountaintop, hilltop, small town in the northeast of India, Himalayas.
Okay.
In Nepal, so it's speak 3 languages there. And I went to a boarding school. Now we would be, it's super cold, and we would be woken up without fail at 6 a.m. A matron would just kick open the door. Come on, boys, chop, chop, hands off your willies, socks on your feet, get ready. And it was like, full, it's like you learned to live independent, and I think that shaped my journey into being an entrepreneur.
Wow. So you said becoming a product manager happened more by chance than by choice.
Yeah.
How did that accident happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of my professional career, I started as a software developer in Manchester, and my product management career happened more by chance at a company I was working in Denmark. It's RTX Wireless Comms. So we basically build products for like Nokia, Microsoft was our main client. And in that boutique wireless engineering company, I was lucky to be exposed to certain products, innovations that had gone to market and succeeded, like the Xbox 360 was actually completely built by us at RTX. And a lot have failed as well. And this includes portfolios from Philips, Samsonite, big clients. Now, also dealing with manufacturing in China, it just exposed me to a world much bigger than what I knew as a junior software engineer when I started only 4 years ago. And I remember distinctly this particular meeting with a senior leadership team in this Danish engineering firm. where we were talking about a new product that was yet to be launched in the market, and that's a Skype cordless phone. So this is an era. RTX is actually our biggest market share was in cordless telephony in Europe, and consultancy revenue by building products for others, right? So in that cordless phone, the engineers were debating a lot of features. So we had even the CTO Peter in that meeting, including the CEO, right? They were debating a lot of features, and I was a year and a half maybe. So I had started speaking Danish, and there were sometimes, you come across things like, this should be obvious from a product standpoint. Why are the engineers not thinking about it? So I said during the meeting suddenly, because no one knew if I was speaking Danish yet, but I said in Danish, right? Hvorfor har du Twitter eller Facebook so inside the handset, they were debating features of having Twitter, Facebook, and stuff like that. And the biggest lesson in product management is how you proactively, pragmatically cut waste so your engineering time can really focus on the ROI driving factors for your client or for the market, for the customer. So imagine inside a cordless phone, why on earth, your social account is quite personal, right? Would you share that with 2-3 kids, family, and it's not needed. So it's just and it was like, this was just one such moment. And later my manager said, Raj, you come up with these insights suddenly in these meetings. I think you should go into product management. And that led me to exploring, understanding more business side, and eventually writing business cases for the company, which was a serious promotion.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Cool. Wow.
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
love that. I love that. So looking back at my Zupo,
Yeah.
what was the hardest lesson that made you the operator that you are today?
Hardest lesson.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick one hard lesson out of many.
Yeah, pick one.
So, but I think for us, go to market initially, the team were building the product with expectations that with zero marketing we will have real sales. That was because we were just techies, 4 of us in a early stage, so to say, not in a garage, in a incubator like this, but in Strathclyde University. And there was just let's launch it on Kickstarter, because that's the platform to fund innovation. Soon we were faced with the reality that even we set a very modest financial goal, 1,000 units sold. That's it. That was the goal, because we were making it in Scotland, so our cost was high to build it, manufacture it, and we could charge no more than £20 a unit. So do the math, 20 into 1,000, that's just 20K. But we had a tough 30-day target, 20K. We had started with zero marketing, basically just a video talking about the product, and we expected people to buy it. Now the magic did happen. On second day of Kickstarter, somehow the algorithm placed us and we sold 1.5K worth of products. But the third day, again, it was zero. So this is what would have happened is basically Kickstarter UK audience was very small at the time. Kickstarter US, we weren't even exposed to that market. So, but that initial sort of little spike told us if we can do the marketing right, we can potentially reach our goal. But the problem was the campaign was live and active. If we stopped it, we would have lost the 1.5 we already raised. And if we didn't, we had very little time to plan, figure things out. So it was very much on the fly. I remember then a journalist getting in touch, suddenly going on the train to London, another day in Manchester, doing some of these press interviews, CNN, CNET, and eventually we shot way past our goal. Wow. But that was a very hard lesson. And once the 30 days ended, I gave the whole team, whole team as in there was 4 of us, just take days off, do nothing, because it was so intense. And I hope most entrepreneurs learn that lesson. Like, if you build it, it will come. It never does. You should plan. You should understand, how do I get my first 10 users, first 100, first 10,000?
Wow.
You need to have a plan.
Wow. So what's like the go-to-marketing strategy you can give to somebody who wants to build a product and they are considering, doing a crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter?
Sure. Well, the real go-to-market strategy is built around going deep into the customer's lens, their perspective, deeply understanding their pain point. If we did it right, we probably would have spent 6 months doing a lot of customer deep dive interviews, figuring out, which out of 10 messages really is the problem, and then attack that problem head on, as in build your engineering, or because we are a tech team, so I'm saying build your tech around the problem. But it's the same for any business, really. If you cannot really figure out the problem, so look at it for 4 segments. I always say we try to use this. This is our own blueprint, which is a problem. There are 3 pain points is top. How have I validated any one of those pain points? That pain point usually ties to a target audience. So, Glasgow may have a pain point that Edinburgh doesn't. So your target audience is only Glasgow, not Edinburgh, right? So list 3 such audience segments, then build a solution that head-on addresses, say, pain point number 2 for audience 1.
Okay.
Yeah, and that decide what channel you're going to go to market with. So, for instance, you mentioned Kickstarter. That's definitely not. There's 20 other channels you could choose. You need to figure out where let's say in this case, Edinburgh audience is hanging out. Is it on Reddit? Is it on Twitter? And focus why on one channel? Because if you spread your marketing too thin again, you're going to be trying to be everything to everyone, but not be something to someone that matters, right? So yeah, that would be my general advice. Is like, don't spray and pray. Focus.
don't spray and pray. Don't, somebody says don't, splash spaghetti on the wall and look, be wondering which one of them will stick. You need to have a proper strategy. Yeah, so Raj, since 2017, you've been saying the future is augmentation, not automation. So I want to ask you, from your perspective, why do you think most founders still misunderstand AI, even as of 2020?
Wow, I love this. You picked up my 2017 podcast interview on augmented AI being augmented intelligence than with Neil's podcast, I think. Wow, brilliant question. So I feel if you see today, it take, the best of enterprise grade AI as well. So which today I'll say, consumer ChatGPT, enterprise Microsoft Copilot. Why is it called Copilot? Because the human, you are the pilot. The AI is augmenting what you can do as a skilled human, experienced, and maybe even emotionally driven to solve a particular problem that you have either felt, you perceive in the market. So, so I kept saying that in the short run at least. Now, we can, go into another rabbit hole. There is a future, much longer term possible scenario where AI agents are doing so much work and they have, start compounding intelligence that they are no longer as augmented as the world is today, right? But in the short term, again, I'll say the same thing I said, back back then, because of the human story is unique and the AI story is just getting started, and a lot of this means AI is only as good as its human pilot. that's how it is today,
That's true. I agree with you. So I want to ask you, right now we see so many founders says they are AI first tech company, AI first something.
Aye.
What's the biggest lie they are telling themselves?
I wouldn't say a lie, but I would say it's more like, you try to attach that AI label to everything. I mean, and second, you need to define what is an AI first company. I mean, are we purely saying, oh, AI is so interesting today thanks to ChatGPT, and we will build a company that only does AI? Or are we saying AI can be used seriously in transforming our business, and that's productivity gains or whatever, and we are betting big on the AI transformation, which is very much the case with many corporates. My younger brother actually has a role. He got promoted last month. He's now a AI transformation specialist. And this is looking at, they have accounts, it's a big company. So they have accounts where they are clearly losing money. So with the AI, how can we optimize those accounts, which is loss making, and focus more on our business goals for next fiscal year and so on. But a lot of this is driven purely by inside company data, which is unique. So to go back, on that premise, we are AI first or we are AI only, I think it's a misnomer than a lie. It's just because from a startup perspective, if you look at the investor side of the story as well, here in Barclays Eagles lab, right, there was a true venture partner yesterday who was, talking, and he said, well, our firm has to invest in 2 businesses every year. We get 400 entries for those 2 that we will finally select in 2026, right? Because AI is now such a big part of either transforming or enabling, it's kind of like the internet back in, the early stage of .com.
1999.
Yeah. So it just means if you're not using AI or using AI smartly, I will question why. But it doesn't mean, like what many founders do, you stick an AI label when you cannot truly, like if you go to an interview stage, you cannot truly answer what the heck is AI doing for you or your company or your clients or your customers. You don't have a clear AI vision that has been executed, codified into the work process, and then don't call yourself an AI company. It's as simple as that, right? Yeah.
So, and because, I love the fact that you mentioned 2099, there was a .com bubble around that time. And there are usually bubbles that burst when there are new technologies. Of course, I know you remember the time of NFT. Every type of technology, usually, when they come out, people, we overhype it, and it is later on that we now see the real ones that deliver values. So from your perspective, what's the difference between AI that dazzles and the AI that actually adds value in production?
So from the lens of, the crypto, you're saying NFTs or so what is a fad and what is a real, something that is long lasting?
In AI.
Yeah, so I think AI is proving that, let's take any real scenario. I don't know, accounting, let's say, yeah? Most small businesses have or need an accountant, but there is a lot of AI-enabled software that you are able to use that significantly reduces your financial quarter projection on the kind of time and actual external spending you're spending with an accountant, with a lawyer, and so on. And these resources are obviously very highly priced. So that value may be tangible, right? On the other hand, some tools, AI tools, the valuations are also through the moon and crazy. So there is a bubble. There is a bubble happening somewhere there. And I think just like the dot-com bubble, some of it will burst. But there will be also the survivors like the Amazons of the world that clearly goes through. And that kind of tells you it's more of a trend than a fad, simply because, going back to that small company example, if you as a founder or say a product owner, product manager in a small company can see that tangible value of AI, you're not going to stop using it. Very soon, companies will learn how to monetize it because they haven't yet. That's another story, right? But there are many great products in history. You can look at AI-enabled products that's just not monetized yet. So if I ask you, like, do you use Alexa or a smart speaker?
Is that a real question?
Yeah.
I don't use any of them.
Any of them, okay. You wouldn't consider using one of them.
Are you asking?
But let's say, do you know? Yeah, but you said, right? I can ask some questions.
Yes. I was just caught.
That's fine. But you're aware of what Alexa is, right? This came to the market in 2014, right? Check Alexa's actual financial results. Last quarter, they lost like 22 billion.
Wow.
In losses. So it's a product, it's not yet monetized. It's simply a very compelling product which many people are adopting, using. But the monetization model, business model has just not been figured out, right?
Wow.
So it's quite interesting. There is some, but it's so clear to Amazon, why are they pumping so much money? It's so clear at some point that equation will flip. So it's kind of like that, I think, with many AI tools today.
Wow. You built AI system used by, a lot of people, millions. If a founder wants AI inside their product, what is the first concrete step they are supposed to take, not just theory?
To thinking of how AI can add value to their product, right?
Because you did mention that most companies have not monetized their, AI capabilities.
Well, I've been involved with AI transformations. That's the first thing I look at doing. It's essentially finding one small problem, and this does not have to be an external customer problem. So in a contact center, for instance, scenario, a very simple metric usually is what's called AHT, average handling time. And most contact centers, customer support is optimized. Like if you spend more than 7 minutes on the phone, you're going to lose money. Let's say, how can AI augment, not remove? Because I think it will be, my vision for AI future is that AI will keep augmenting so much and generate so much future value that more humans, at least in the midterm, will be needed, not less, to support all the innovations that might be happening. So in the contact center scenario, it's like really simple. You figure out one small, problem that, right, my agents take a lot of time wrapping up the case. Say they've spent 5 minutes on the call, they spend another 4 minutes to wrap up. So overall, they spend almost 10 minutes because they have to create case notes, summaries. Or you have a manual that is 500 pages. On top of their head, they know the general answer. They cannot quote the specific. Now, AI, however, can search that 500-page manual in seconds. So the human's role is more down to writing the right prompt. Where do I look? Extract the answer. Reply to my customer. Use the same, transcript plus extract. Put it in my box, close the case. And I saw this was reducing the what's called STC, speed to competency, time by half.
Wow.
So you found, oh, right, that's the problem. this is clear where AI is adding value, not destroying or removing. If I can now apply this to one small team, I can scale it to one whole department. Maybe someday, if we scale this across the firm, it can save X million, right? That's the business case. That's the value proposition you have defined, and then you have to go run with it. And then you will also face other challenges. But in my experience, most of it wouldn't be from the tech or AI. It will be from humans and other. Yeah.
So I want to also understand from your perspective, what does a good data set looks like? What do most early stage teams, what do they get wrong?
It's like data is the fuel for AI. AI consumes data just like your car, fuel. So without the right data, you have no hope of AI project succeeding. Simply because the way, if we are talking about generative AI or that's GPT models, the way it works, the T in transformer is essentially like I'm going to do so many permutations, combinations, and I'm going to be able to do it in seconds because AI can, that I'm eventually going to come to the right, answer. But that is only right answer if I have the right data. So in any AI, say if you're looking to look at Plug AI, your original question, I would just look at how am I doing it manually today? Don't automate something that you haven't a written prescription on. So even back in in my Denmark days, when I used to look at automation generally, not AI, when you try to automate an inefficient process in your organization, you simply magnify that inefficiency. So I would start with making sure that human process is documented and efficient. That's step one. Step two, actually following the pattern of your question, is the data. Again, if I don't have the right data or the data is so unstructured that AI is unable to consume it, it's like, say, hiring an intern in your marketing team, right? If you give marketing operations manual that is so confusing or unstructured, he or she is most likely going to not succeed in their role because they didn't have the right data to begin with, or in this case, in the human example case, or just didn't have enough time with more senior leadership to be able to ground themselves in the. It's similar for an AI agent that you hire, because it's referring back to the data, and if that data is not clean, structured, ready for AI consumption, it's going to be useless.
Waste.
Yeah.
Wow. So the Pareto principle is what I want to ask you about. The 80-20 rule. When it comes to launching AI features fast, what are the things that are the 20% that brings in the 80% of the results?
Yeah, it's. I don't know if to put it in that Pareto lens, but I think it's true with many things in life. If you are able to have a clear vision for what is the, highest value stuff in my workflow, in my team, it's very common that 20% will yield a disproportionate amount of result. It doesn't mean the other 80% is not important. It's all there too, but yeah, it's in a. So if it was the question about an AI workflow, or
what's the 80 to 20% of launching an AI feature? Let's say we want to launch an AI feature, without burning money, without burning credibility. I think it's just going back to all of the things.
It's prioritization. So it's like with any other, product management, like you say, it's a good difference between a good and a great product manager is typically down to that prioritization. There will always be 20 things to do, but have you decided on the two things, or 20%, four things, 20% that actually really matters and creates a disproportionate It's very hard. It's not, there is no, right. That's why, product management at that level is definitely a very human endeavor. It's not something you can just take data to do. It needs experience. It needs prior failures,
So understand
prior,
the nuances.
everything yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you've licensed IPs to global phone manufacturing companies. How does a small company convince a large, gigantic organization to do that? How do you do that?
Goes back to solving a problem or having a need or having leverage. It's one, two, or the third, because what many small companies don't understand maybe is that your leverage as an innovator, let's say, if you have something unique, a unique piece of tech, especially IP, if you have then managed to preserve trade secret, protect it efficiently, you are valuable to a bigger company. And then this all goes as a package, because that know-how, going back to the previous question, talking about product management nuances, these are things you cannot find the answer on Google, ChatGPT, or simply use money to solve the problem. So yes, the big company has a vast team of engineers who can do a lot of things, but they may not have that unique know-how, unique insight. And plus, then if you patent the technology correctly, again, most startups fail in this because so there's 98% of patents today are useless patents. But if you can somehow,
Really?
yeah, and I am hoping that that equation shifts because what happens, patents are mostly done by patent attorneys, and some of them are brilliant attorneys, but they're mostly looking at the legal side of what to patent rather than the whole business side. So if it is actually down to you as a product owner, manager, founder, entrepreneur even, that you are able to secure your IP on that Pareto principle on the actual top 20% value adding activity, and then make sure your attorneys has done the legal bit right, for which and it's an expensive game, because most patent attorneys will be £350 an hour easily, right? So I think especially in a startup, you need to be very efficient in prioritizing, focusing on the real value add, and then just go for the last element. Because even I did this mistake initially. I would say my first few, even patents were not the best, simply because I sent a brief to someone, let's say, and then, you try to, rather than taking the whole initiative of, they don't know my business, they don't know my tech, they don't know my product, so it's that cross exchange, and then work with someone efficient. And eventually, if you have built that whole moat, you are going to be valuable to a bigger company, simply because although they have the money, the resources, they simply do not have that know-how. And if you have managed to secure other moats around that know-how, it's more likely they will find licensing is a smart strategic choice for them, not for you. Because for you, might be a strategic choice as well, because if your main expertise is the innovation, let's say, and if you want to create more products, more new stuff, and not get bogged down with marketing plus manufacturing plus this was our case,
Customer
right?
service.
Customer service and all operational nuances. Why not find that right balance? And it takes a long time to both understand the needs of the customer, the big tech, let's say, in this case, or any bigger company, and understand your own strengths, and then understand where to meet to make such a deal happen.
Yeah. I want to lay more on the last thing you just said. So when should a founder build, and when should they just license?
Yeah. Great question. For us, the first 3-4, maybe 3 to 4 years was completely focused on build, We'll do everything ourselves. We did not try to license anything. Simply put, it's because, if you go, it's same as fundraising. If you go knock, 100 investors, you will appear needy, desperate, and not that you have your own game plan, right? Can I make revenue without taking an investment? That's the same with licensing. You need to figure out the right time for it. Like when I have either enough product market fit, I can, which in our case was, I can easily sell when I haven't figured out our marketing, which I still, that's where we need people like you, because if I haven't figured out my marketing, I would have needed that exact expertise. But then if we are too small, we simply don't have the 3 M's, right? The marketing, the manufacturing, but more importantly, the money to scale.
Which is important.
That is when you might think, right, I could scale faster by taking a much smaller share per unit or a license fee than trying to sell and get all of the lion's share of the market, which I can try and fail. Or I could, but then when you are approaching, in this case, a licensor, I'm wrong, a licensee, exactly. You are now coming from a vantage point where you have figured out the basic equation, right? And they are just taking you up for the scale-up ride. But if you are trying to go to the scale-up ride without figuring out the basic, it's more unlikely that licensing partnership will work for either party.
I want to go back to the thing you said earlier, having an IP moat when you build one thing and you have things around it. What is the most important IP moat that founders think that they have but they don't?
In my head, it's always trade secrets. Okay. Now, that might sound counterintuitive because, don't you need patents? Don't you need registered rights? Yes, absolutely. Patents are also critical. Even more critical is a trademark. If you have managed to have a great marketing person, who has now built a marketing moat, which is trademark, then your brand is one of the biggest assets. I think if founders want to take up a IP 101 crash course, they should just look at the history of cola. So Coca-Cola, they IP'd everything. Of course, their top thing is the trade secret, which is the Coke recipe, which is still proprietary. No one knows. Well, of course, you can make slightly similar colas, but not the exact. The second is their patents. So between 1988, when Coke started, in the American market, right, they have had hundreds and hundreds of patents, obviously, but the first few patents were the critical one. It just ensured, because patent gives you a monopoly for 20 years, So in America, they had 100 copycat products. But now comes the difficult part. It's how do you, if someone is using your trademark or your patented product, how do you remove them from the market? Fortunately for Coca-Cola, they had massive legal teams. They literally took 80 competitors out of the market using their patents and lawsuits to make sure they are the only one Americans recognize as. It's almost like so iconic now. It's not just a drink. It's like you're tasting freedom. You're tasting, and so many times it's that brand. Pause, refresh. So all these marketing elements, they copyrighted, they trademark protected, but eventually by, 1950s maybe, when one real competitor came up, Pepsi Cola, because by then all of the patents, all of the value-adding patents, let's say, had expired. You could market something similar now. The market was so big, it had room for more, players anyway. During that time, what they did was also quite historic. They actually made a deal with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, that because this bottle design, so many things, these design patterns, because so many things are so, like, a consumer relates to it as a cola, that we should be granted like a further survival clause, along with that no one else can do this same bottle. That's, and that
brutal.
meant even though Pepsi Cola existed, it was clearly different from Coca-Cola. It's just the journey is quite fascinating. I think if you want to take a IP 101 lesson, just go through the history of that. And a lot of it, I'll say, applies even today, especially for a AI startup, because you are in the risk of creating something super valuable, but then having 100 knockoffs, or or being taken apart by a bigger company. But if you have enough IP, you will be able to strike deals with the bigger company rather than disappearing from the market.
So, in your explaining how Coca-Cola was able to IP and trademark a lot of things around what they are doing, you sort of explained the IP modes, right? So I'm saying, my question is, how do founders nowadays, right now, how do they think they have an IP mode but they don't have?
Well, this is why I think you should take intellectual property seriously. And again, we didn't touch upon, trade secret is still your best asset, because it's the same, like going back to that Coca-Cola example, it was an intentional decision not to patent it, but to keep the recipe as a trade secret, because if you patent it, it's public domain knowledge, others can copy it, then you have to enforce it. So that is a very nuanced mix. So in a AI model, let's say, one very clear way I think about it, at least, is the model weights should be proprietary. You should never patent what weights am I using to come to the AI. So the way generative AI, like let's say ChatGPT works, is it's a neural network with various weight model parameters working behind the scenes, right? So the model weights can be easily kept as a trade secret once you have managed to hit the recipe of which model weight is returning me the exact knowledge-based answer. Let's say I'm just taking a random example. So yeah, it's that finding that nuanced balance, and this is where you should be talking to a very good patent IP attorneys. Yeah.
Raj, you are deep inside, the Glasgow tech ecosystem. You are, this is where you are. This is where you work.
Yeah.
So, are there any advantage in this ecosystem that people outside don't see?
I do believe there is. We can talk a lot about the disadvantages or complaints people have, especially entrepreneurs have. But I think, was it during the pandemic? I remember writing about it because we were having just so many discussions. I'm like, let's look at the positives, right, as well. I believe, and what I wrote as well is, I think what early stage entrepreneurs has in terms of support for an idea stage is almost not as good anywhere else, including in Silicon Valley. Again, this is based on friends I would chat with in the Valley. If you are at a, let's say, mostly product market validation, or I have had 1 or 2 signed on customers, I have a letter of intent. Sometimes in Silicon Valley, you can meet a venture capitalist or even an angel investor. You can have a lunch, and sometimes by the end of the lunch, there will be a check written, and deals can happen that fast. It doesn't happen here, obviously. But if you are at a very early stage with an idea, because of Scottish Enterprise and the many government-based Innovate UK grant, other support mechanisms, including Glasgow City Council, you asked about Glasgow, has Get Started grants, Get Started programs. So I feel, I started in this city as entrepreneur, if you want to use that word. When was it? 2012, right? And before that, I had university exposure where we had, again, you spoke about Dragon's Den. Funnily enough, this one of my initial, that's the Zupo Smart Tag product idea. Actually, I pitched and won at a small competition called Strathclyde Dragon's Den. And this was when I was a student in 2008-9. Right? It was a variation of the idea. It wasn't the exact thing because that's what we figured out later. Suddenly the tech was there for solving the problem which we defined back in 2008-9. And that sort of gives you that, quick ability to sort of market test your ideas a little bit. And if you are enterprising, resourceful, you are going to look for the support. And I would say it would have been very hard in another place to find that support for that early, a university student, no credibility, maybe, 10 slides on a deck, and my idea got funded. But yes, I had to dig, I had to look, and I had an offer in Denmark as well at the time. So and this is with any deal making. If you have two offers, you are mostly in a apple to apple, you are mostly able to negotiate and make deal terms. So that's deal making 101 anyway. Yeah, so there is support. All is not lost, I hope, even today.
That's cool. I think the last guest was talking about she not being able to find support in this ecosystem. She mentioned that she got funding to build MVP, and the body that is supposed to build the MVP did not build the MVP.
Right.
And they got paid, I think, by the grantor, the grantor for them, and she's not feeling happy about it. So I'm wondering, okay, so she was now saying it is now a case of egg and chicken and egg and chicken. So they said they are telling her before you can raise money, you need MVP. But
you can't have the MVP if you don't have the money.
So
yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I asked that. So
in that, I think the perspective there is it's true. There is multiple times you will face that chicken and egg scenario where the fact that there was funding, it shows there has been some support for the idea stage. Obviously, if the MVP partner did not deliver, it's lessons learned. She should be sharing it loud with the community. So I don't know who the hell this partner is, right? But this is also, these are nuanced because you don't know. So very often, sometimes it's knowledge, right? Like an ecosystem like Scotland or California happened because someone did it big. And in here, it's Skyscanner. Because now that Skyscanner is kind of mushrooming a smaller ecosystem. Plus, the government is trying to help, I think. You said grant support is probably from you have to be more careful choosing the right MVP partner. I had made similar mistakes as well. But fortunately for us, again, this is a lucky break, because it could have been make and break that time. But we won Innovate UK, another small 100K. But that was sufficient for me to now not look for cheap, but vet very carefully who I should partner with. And then, so very often, just like hiring a co-founder, it's sometimes based on mutual respect, shared trust, support. These things massively help choose. So I chose my roommate from college, basically, who was working in Amazon at the time, had his dream of building a software company. He went back to India to start this company. And I'm like, I'm going to come in as your first customer, but also some of the money I'm going to pay you should be now equity-based because we are going to build this together. This happened within months of the initial, and that meant that way we could make sure the MVP partner is mutually
you-
incentivized to deliver rather than just, yeah.
You are too wise.
I don't want to use the words. But
Yeah. So, I love the way you are. This conversation is progressing because you made mention of the only, I think maybe that's the only unicorn we've had, the Sky Scanner.
Well, yeah, it was the first big Scottish
Yeah,
tech, and
yes.
Gareth is a incredible guy, and I have hope that that creates a lot of angel investor ecosystem, smaller deals, sometimes with his or their people, all the team that supported investors who supported that. It also, so it just creates the ecosystem.
Yeah. So, the second guest we had today was the person who does the PR for Skyscanner.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the scale-up ecosystem. What do you think is missing?
There is a lot of things missing. I mean,
And again, I want to give a bracket, like
yeah.
a defining line. What I'm looking when I say what do you think is missing? I'm saying what is missing and what can a founder do about it. There could be a lot of things that a founder cannot do anything about, but what is missing that a founder can do something about
it.
when
I'll
we are
have to
talking
think of
about
this.
scale up?
Oh, okay. So what can you do with missing?
So
Knowledge gap.
or let's just take a look at what's missing in the scale up ecosystem.
Oh,
right
scale
now.
up, not
Yeah.
startup. You're
No,
saying
no, not
actually
startup
scale
now.
up.
Just
Yeah.
scale up now.
Scale up is a bigger challenge. So I can share a lot more perspective on that than the startup phase, because for a say equivalent, you might be building the exact same tech. You might have very more traction than what you have. Let's say for a same Apple to Apple entrepreneur in Miami or even in California, right? And you will be getting a valuation that is not even half. It will be more like 1/10. So if that guy is, or him or her is raising 10 million at 100 million valuation, it's more likely you will be raising 150K to maybe 200 at a 2 mil valuation. Or even especially the scale up stage, there is good debt financing actually mechanism, or market invoices, many other, but when it comes to that equity play, which is the most efficient way especially at that stage to raise capital, you're just getting and then it's the Pareto principle. It's that few that looks good on paper suddenly gets all the whole UK, say, or European investor attention. Obviously, with Brexit and stuff, the whole market dynamics is much more complicated today. But even like from my own experience, right through the pandemic, when a lot of the entire global market crashed, right? So I started buying a lot of stock. That has paid up very well. But I also invested in 3 startups, 2 before the pandemic, two more through the pandemic, right? As in scale ups here. So one is Brewdog, you already know. But again, mind you, Brewdog actually has lost so much of its market value. So it's hard for an investor now to say which one is the next Skyscanner and which one is actually, because like take simply, physical product drinks is very hard to scale it the way say AI play can. The other one was a fintech, Curve. So I was because they had a similar equity for punks like Brewdog, like round. I got into Curve in 2021, I think, right? And Curve exited last month, 120 million.
Whoa. So
Yeah.
tell me, how much did you invest? How much did you get out?
I invested around 400. I lost it all.
Pardon? You invested
I
what?
lost it all because what happened was by
400,000?
2021, after the pandemic.
Was it 400,000 or 400 pounds?
No, just 400 quid. That's
Okay.
it. So it's not even a loss, but which I don't care. But This was to just see, can you pick the winners from the loser? And this is one of those things, like when you pick the winner and yet lose. Because what happened is, just like maybe WeWork, when inflated valuations started happening, by 2021, the valuations were closer to a unicorn status. And when you sell for only 120 million, basically it's 1/10 of. So
What's
a
it
lot of
value?
investors, in fact, collectively, I know 250 million was lost. So, because there's crowdfunding, 400 here, another 4,000 there, 20 quid here, it's just, but collectively a lot has been. So even the darlings of scale ups have failed so badly.
Wow.
Curve is the annoying one. The other one is free trade. That one, actually, I got a return, but 1.1x. And they sold for 160 million. It's just, yeah. It's like the ecosystem has fractured a lot more of late. And it's because no one IPOs it's very hard to IPO in whole of European market, but especially UK. What has happened is, through Brexit and stuff, look at Brewdog's market, if they were local, is so small. It's so small,
Yeah.
right? And regulations are changing. So which means the best of the best, like Cambridge-based ARM, you remember they IPO'd in America. It's hard to blame them. We just need more companies, less companies getting bought only by, big American or IPOing not in London Stock Exchange.
Impressive. So, what's the one mistake you have seen founders make that you see that kills momentum?
Kills momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the losing motivation can lead you to lose money faster than I think. So we discussed last time the hard and the soft factors. The hard factor, as in, like, if you run out of money, you have no
motivation.
But
Okay.
very often you run out of money because you have also maybe run out of motivation, which means because otherwise you will figure out a way, right, to
keep the lights on.
keep the lights on, keep going. Yeah.
So, this question is funny. It says, if you lost Innovate Zero today and how to rebuild from zero in the next 12 months, what's the exact sequence you are going to follow?
I don't think there is. This is why I think entrepreneurship is hard. There is no, exact recipe blueprint. You should have the knowledge. Going back to, like, if you have built a MVP a few times, you will know how to do it better next time. That knowledge is important. But there is no other exact, because the markets would have changed. The timing is everything in entrepreneurship. So you have to time again to the realities of the market and the stages of the product you will be building, right? So I wouldn't know if I had lost everything. It's kind of a nice place to be, maybe, because it's exciting.
So, one more question. What do you want every founder to think about before they add AI to whatever they are building? Now everybody is trying to be AI enabled.
Right.
Yeah. So, what's one question they must ask themselves and really, really answer before they go into that rabbit hole of AI?
So if it's one question, why am I using or thinking of AI? Why? So let's say, we can role play. You're the founder. Why?
Okay. Two things, because I actually wanted to answer you, but I don't want to go off. Two things. I've noticed that investors are looking to fund AI stuff. AI is actually really cool nowadays, and I'm looking for ways to make what we are building more efficient.
Yeah, I think the third is a more compelling reason than the first two, because if you're trying to follow a trend which could be a fad, it's most certainly not going to yield any real value. On the point of investors are looking for AI because, and I was telling the Barclays Eagles Lab series yesterday, which I've shared on LinkedIn. It was a great session. Just discussion panel. Um, yes, because AI is proving itself sort of to be a transformative agent, right? So if you're not using an AI, investor will question. As an investor, I will be worried, right? Why are they not de-risking, automating some of the stuff so they can focus on the real value they are adding? That goes to the third point. Actually,
Efficiency.
what is the value AI is going to really add? So if you have answered why AI correctly, you will know what is that AI serious value add. We spoke about the call center or contact centers, customer support examples. For every industry, every little, especially for entrepreneur, I think it's just productivity, time management. Sometimes it's research, the depth of research you cannot get elsewhere, or quick enough. And sometimes, so it's a lot of it is down to productivity. But very soon there will be more serious AI agents that can be used as part of the workflow, which means you're already seeing it today, which wasn't possible even 3 years ago. There are companies that is actually generating billion plus. And guess how many people they are?
How many people?
There is one that is 10 or 12 people.
Wow.
And that is a bit scary, I know, because it's like, wow, if you are making that much in profit, why not hire more people, right? Because that's also a big startup challenge. Because once you go, what Jeff Bezos actually calls the pizza rule, I think, do you know of the pizza rule?
No.
Any team, if I bring a large Domino's pizza, right? If it's not enough to be shared within so it's usually up to 6, 7 people is the right size. So that phase where, and the Skyscanner model is every squad is that 6, 7 core people who has a sort of entrepreneurial person to lead that unit, no matter what they're doing. And each squad then needs to coordinate, collaborate with each other. That phase is very difficult for many founders, and which is where very often they will go in the market to bring in a CEO to replace them, bring in an operator who can manage humans. But it's like, wow, but if you are making that much revenue, I don't know, you should find some other way to contribute back to society.
Whoa. Would you not like to build that kind of company? 1 billion with 7 or 8 or 9 persons.
10 people, yeah.
Wow. We've come to the end of the questions, and I will want to do a short, quick fire where you finish my sentence.
Okay, we'll try.
Yeah. The biggest myth that founders believe about AI is
that AI is the one or godlike solution to their problem. First, let's know the problem.
if your AI needs more than 3 months to ship, it means
you might be too slow. Because if your AI MVP, let's rephrase this, if your AI MVP is taking more than that, it means either you don't trust the market enough or you're too worried about putting it out. Yeah, I'm not going to. Or, the AI is not solving any real problem.
So the fastest path to licensing your technology to a big tech is?
The fastest.
Yeah.
Go excruciatingly slow. Licensing is a long-term game. Don't rush it.
Like how long?
It's always, because there is so much of nuances. Like we discussed this earlier, right? First, it's like actually having product market fit, actually having an alternative. I can still make revenue from, let's say, the consumer market, but I'm going B2B, I'm going to you, because I can scale with you. So leverage and vantage points are well established. That's only when licensing will work, especially with, not just big tech, a disproportionate size of company that a startup could be dealing with. Yeah.
Most startups fail with AI because
Fortunately, we haven't failed yet on the
I'm
journey
saying,
with
I'm
AI.
saying,
But
I'm saying most startups.
but yeah, I mean, say most
I'm not
startups
saying
might.
I'm not
I
saying
know,
your
I
startup.
know,
I'm saying,
but I'm saying it's hard to give a first-person perspective on this
oh,
one
okay,
for a good
okay,
reason.
okay.
But I would say because they have had too much faith in AI rather than either themselves or the real problem. Yeah, it's not a godlike thing yet.
The last,
Fortunately, it's not.
the last question is funny. Okay, if I had to rebuild my career in the next 6 months, I'll start with.
I'll start with something I'm genuinely passionate about. I'm not chasing, the vanity, any sort of vanity metrics, which includes money. Yeah, I will start with that,
You start with something you're passionate about. All right.
and knowing what that is. Yeah.